Each year, Harvard Business School collects research on American independent workers like consultants, freelancers, independent contractors, and gig workers. Data collection from 2011 showed that only 32% of independent workers felt more secure in their roles than they would have at a traditional 9-to-5 job. But by 2021, that number had soared to 68%. And yet, we are still told that securing a 9-to-5 job is a promise of financial stability. That promise keeps new generations of college students in debt as they pursue degrees to enter the corporate workforce. It keeps us all using titles and company names as status symbols. And it keeps corporations fueled with eager entry-level hires looking to climb the ladder and collect a reliable paycheck. And companies burn through entry-level employees faster than an old Hummer burns through its fuel tank. But could that cycle be coming to an end? If topics like these interest you, or maybe you're watching this at work to motivate you to quit your job, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Today, I want to discuss the safety of 9-to-5 jobs. In particular, why they may not be as secure as we've all been led to believe. And later in the video, I'll tell you what you can do to protect yourself, so you definitely don't want to miss that. The first safety net I want to talk about is retirement benefits. This is one of the most common reasons I hear people say they want to stay in a decent paying position and work toward climbing the corporate ladder. Before the Industrial Revolution, most people lived and worked on farms or as craftsmen. Retirement happened when you grew too old or unwell to continue performing physical labor. Then, if you were lucky enough to have a family to take care of you, you retired until you died, usually shortly after you stopped working. But the onset of the Industrial Revolution forced employers to look for ways to attract and retain workers. They also needed workers to leave their employment when they became too old or costly. In 1875, the American Express Railroad Company introduced the first private pension plan in the U.S. Soon, other companies began to follow suit. Once employees had reached a certain number of years of employment and a specific age, they could collect a modest benefit upon retiring. But workers at smaller companies lacked access to such plans and clung to employment for as long as possible, preventing younger people from taking their roles. So, in 1935, Congress passed the Social Security Act, promising a small income to Americans upon retirement. Of course, this system has grown, and now there are dozens of different retirement options Americans can pay into, often matched by their employers. This is a compelling reason to stick to traditional employment in a country where the Social Security system is forecasted to bottom out in 2037. A $50,000 a year worker contributing the full 6% match to their 401k could bank $120,000 in free matched retirement contributions over a 40-year career. But relying on a traditional job to fund your retirement isn't a safe option anymore. First, $120,000 may sound like a lot of free money, but it won't cover even a fraction of your costs after retirement. Plus, there are over 200 different match formulas used by employers. And I'm sure you won't find this surprising, but most don't have your best interests at heart. Some plans only match contributions until the maximum is reached, even if a January bonus means you hit that max immediately. Others require working a certain number of hours before you are eligible for any matching, or that you be employed on the last day of the year to receive their match. And you may have to wait from 1 to 6 years for the employer match to vest when you leave the company. And if you're hoping for a pension, the likelihood is slim. While in the 1980s, about 60% of Americans had access to pension plans, that number has dropped to about 14% today. And nearly 2/3 of the remaining pension funds are considering dropping guaranteed benefits to new workers within the next 5 years. So if you've been considering your 9-to-5 your retirement safety net, it may be time to take a closer look at what exactly your employer match plan includes. And it's always a good idea to supplement with Roth IRAs, health savings accounts, and other low-risk, tax-friendly investment opportunities. If you live in the U.S., you're familiar with the financial stress of unexpected medical expenses. Well, scratch that. All medical expenses, since even a regular checkup can run you hundreds of dollars without insurance. So it's unsurprising that many Americans view employer-sponsored health insurance as a significant safety net. But in some states, individual plans may be less expensive than the employee's share of a sponsored plan. Plus, you may be eligible for a subsidy from the federal government to help pay for your insurance policy. Employer-sponsored plans are often restrictive, making it difficult to access certain doctors or hospitals. And if you plan to enroll a spouse or a child, it may be significantly less expensive to pick up an alternative, such as an ACA plan. Another little talked about problem with employer-sponsored plans is that employers are not just covering their portion, anywhere from 50 to 80%, out of the goodness of their hearts. They're paying you a smaller salary to account for their contribution. So if you do decide to skip employer-sponsored care, make sure you use that to negotiate a higher salary. One last point about employer-sponsored health insurance: the moment you lose your job, it's gone. You'll likely be stuck with COBRA as you look for new employment or a marketplace plan, which can quickly eat through your emergency savings. Yes, health insurance in the US is critical, but to assume a 9-to-5 will offer you the best plan for your situation is naive. Do your research, price out different options, and make the best decision based on all the facts, not just convenience. Speaking of convenience, let's talk about company loyalty. Feeling like you owe something to an employer is a common reason many stay in a job long past its expiration date. Staying put is convenient, and we justify it by claiming loyalty. There is a common belief that if you give your heart and soul to your employer, your company will have your back when it matters. And an established relationship is easier to navigate than a new one, so surely staying with one organization as long as possible is the safest move, right? Well, in July of 2022, nearly 1.5 million people were fired or laid off in the US. I would wager that many of those folks felt safe in the loyalty of their company. Here's the reality: companies are loyal to themselves. Your boss may be nice, you may even be friendly with the CEO or owner, but at the end of the day, they hold all the power. And in any relationship with an unbalanced power dynamic, there is potential for abuse. It may sting to think about, but your employer can let you go tomorrow. If all of your trust is in your 9-to-5, what would you have if they fired you? In many cases, you would lose your retirement benefits, health insurance, and paycheck instantly. While most people are expected to provide 2 weeks' notice, employers can tell you a termination is effective immediately. So yes, an employer can let you go without much warning or cause, but surely, if you keep your head down, do your best work, and remain with the company, you can expect a paycheck and an annual raise. Well, it may not be so easy. Employers can reduce your hours unexpectedly, leaving you thousands of dollars short each month. There's also no such thing as a guaranteed raise. Just ask a teacher in America who hasn't gotten their cost of living raise or experience raise in years, despite their employer being contractually obligated to do so. We have this picture in our heads of a 9-to-5 job as a safe harbor, a refuge from the storm of financial stress. But in reality, putting all your eggs into your proverbial 9-to-5 basket is like taking a patched and leaky boat out to sea without supplies. Sure, it's better than no boat, but wouldn't you also like a life jacket, some flares, and a radio? Diversifying your income into multiple streams is essential to ensuring you can weather any storm. You work for your employer to collect a paycheck, but once that check is in your hands, it's up to you to make the money work for you. Collect dividends and interest from an investment portfolio. Purchase a rental property and pocket rent money each month. Start a side hustle. Stop thinking of your 9-to-5 as your safety net and begin weaving your own. Think of your 9-to-5 and all the benefits it offers as the first line of defense. It's a fiddly little lock on your front door. Each time you add an income stream to your portfolio, that door becomes stronger. A side hustle is a deadbolt. An IRA is a steel security door. A rental property is a chain lock. You get the idea. I'm not telling you to dump your 9-to-5. I'm just suggesting you don't trust it to withstand the battering ram of an unexpected life event on its own. Thanks for watching. Now check the links in the description.